My name is Overture Walker, and I am the County Council Representative for Richland County District 8. And I want to welcome everyone to this evening's virtual town hall pertaining to the proposed Rice Meadow Way rezoning request. This evening, I have from the county, Mr. Geo Price, who works in planning, but then also I have with me this evening, Mr. Wade McGuinn, who is a longtime developer here in the Midlands. And also I have, well, along with Mr. McGuinn is his team as well. They're here this evening to present to you their plans as it pertains to this zoning request, but also to answer any questions that you all may have, as well as any concerns for the listeners out there, as well as our constituents. But the aim behind tonight's meeting is to facilitate a conversation between the community as well as the developer. We're not here to cast a vote tonight at all. We're not here to have a knockdown, drag-out fight, but this is simply an opportunity for the community to be heard, to have their questions answered, but also an opportunity for Mr. McGuinn and his team to perhaps assuage or allay any concerns that may surround this rezoning request. If I may, I would like to give Mr. Geo Price an opportunity to address the audience this evening. He is going to talk very briefly about just the history of this parcel and talk a little bit about the request itself. And then once Mr. Price is finished, we're going to turn it over to Mr. McGuinn and his team. And then once he and his team have finished with their presentation, we will then field questions from our audience and listeners. So Mr. Price, if you don't mind.
Again, my name is Geo Price. I'm the zoning administrator for Richland County. The case that we have coming before County Council is a 2.6 acre tract located off of Rice Meadow Way. Subject property zone development district. That rezoning took place in 1999 under case 99-0. Developer at that time can specify which zoning uses he plans for any particular sections of an area. And along with that, can also determine certain setbacks, certain lot sizes. And so they get to kind of they're allowed to be a little bit creative with zonings. This particular area of the PDD is designated for commercial use. So what we have today So the applicant is requesting to rezone it with a commercial use to RMHD, which is residential multifamily high density. Again, this is a 2.6 acre tract, and the rezoning would allow them to do all of the uses allowed within the residential multifamily zoning designation. That designation allows primarily residential uses, as is spelled out, which would include single-family uses or multifamily uses, and within those also other uses such as townhomes. So that's the reason for the request that's coming before County Council.
And thank you, Price, for that that summary. And again, just to echo what Mr. Price has laid out, and that is currently it's zoned as commercial. This area is PDD, and it's currently designed for designated for various densities as well as uses. This particular parcel, it is zoned as commercial. However, I believe that the owner of the property has requested that it be rezoned for, as Mr. Price said, residential, high density, From what I understand in my conversations with Mr. McGuinn, the intention is to, thank you, Mr. Price, but the intention is to build townhomes on this particular parcel. Now, in full disclosure, in the event that the zoning requests were granted and it was rezoned for commercial, as Mr. Price again said, Mr. McGuinn, would not be confined to just using it or building townhomes there. But as I said to Mr. McGuinn, as my understanding that his company, they build homes and townhomes. I've not known him to build apartments. But again, in the event it is, rezoned, or if the rezoning request is granted, he can certainly use it for any purpose within the zoning designation. But you've heard enough from the county, you've heard enough from me, you heard enough from Mr. Price. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McGuinn and his team, as I am sure they are eager to have a conversation with the community and explain this project. And once they're finished, we will field questions from our audience. Mr. McGuinn?
Thank you. Is that good?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for allowing us an opportunity to come forward and explain better what the uses of the property would be with us. I'm going to have Matt Rupert, one of our team, do the presentation tonight, and I think we'll start out with the owner, Mr. John Swistak, who is on the phone, and allow him to make some comments regarding to his thoughts on the property, and then Mr. Rupert will follow up with a presentation on our intentions.
Mr. Swistak,
Yes, I'm here.
go ahead.
Okay, I'm John Swistak, owner of the property. I purchased this commercial. I'm sorry, say that again? Yep, now I can hear you. Do you want me to?
You're good.
Okay. I purchased this commercial land in 2005 with the intention of building office rentals. I made numerous attempts in locating interested businesses through signage, multiple listing, and LoopNet. There were many interested, but they decided they preferred the Hardscrabble Road corridor. Then I offered owner financing and still had no takers. My wife and I are soon to be empty nesters and are considering the ease of townhouse living, which gave us the idea of exploring building townhouses on our property. We spoke with several builders and were invited to the mapped land and homes at Harbison Grove, where we were impressed with the quality and layout. We engaged with the Hussey, Gay, and Bell engineering firm, who informed us this residential development was the best option for this property. I'd like to thank you for your time and hope that we can address your concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Swistak.
Thanks, John. My name's Matt Rupert. I'm an attorney here in town, and my clients are Wade McGuinn and Map Homes and Land and McGuinn Homes, and they wanted me to deliver a couple of opening remarks before we kind of get into the actual details of the proposed project. So to start, my clients wanted me to apologize to, one, the neighbors, and two, to Mr. Walker regarding not engaging them earlier in the process. To be honest, my client's been building in the Midlands for 35 years, and it's not really been their way of conducting business was to go into a neighborhood and, seek comments from the neighbors or the local representative. It's not just because they don't care or don't want to know about it. It's just usually when they go in to build something, the neighborhood are happy. You get new construction, you get new neighbors, increased property value. So it just hasn't been their business plan. But we do want to apologize for that, and that's why we're more than willing and happy to have a meeting like this to temper a lot of the people's concerns about the project. So with 35 years of building experience, my clients have developed multiple subdivisions here in the Midlands, and it's easy enough to Google and find out. Recently, they've transitioned into doing some townhome subdivisions. There's one currently that they're developing in Harbison Grove, which is off of Broad River Road, which is very similar to what they're proposing here. These are not low rent developments, they are owner occupied. I do a lot of the closings for the client, and I can tell you that I'd say 95% of the people that move into these neighborhoods are the owners of the property, and they live in them, and they do thoroughly enjoy them. So the project is going to consist of 25 or 24. Currently, the last plan that I saw had 25 units, and they're going to be separated into either 3 or 4 unit blocks. You'll see that map here in a little bit. The one that you're viewing now is just the general site plan of what the townhome subdivision will look like, and it's going to consist of 2 and 3 bedroom units. The first floor is similar regardless of whether or not it's 2 or 3 bedrooms, and then you can see the layout for the 2 and the 3 bedroom, how they differ depending on the type of unit. The homes will be priced at or above appraisal values around the community. So if the concerns are that this is going to drive property values down, I think that's a little bit misled. My client's not going to construct something that's one be a problem for the neighborhood, and 2, because if he does, then he's going to end up costing him money as well. So he builds high quality, and he will price it appropriately. The other concern that I guess some people have said is that they're concerned that this is going to either be a below market value or government subsidized project. My client first wanted me to let everybody know that government subsidized projects obviously serve a great purpose in this country, and they provide homes to people that may not be able to typically afford them. So we're not opposed to government subsidized developments. My client just doesn't build those type of developments, and he never has. Now moving on to the project specifics, like I said, it's a 24, 25 unit townhome subdivision along a parcel of land between Lee Road and Rice Meadow Way. The project renderings you can see on the board now. And then we've also got, those of you watching, we're changing the view. All right, so this is the, and I assume most people who are watching know where the project location is, but this is the project location. The thoroughfares coming in and out, the idea is to have access via Lee Road, via Rice Meadow, and then Rice Meadow Way out to Hardscrabble. You can't really see, but the K is the area that is going to be developed. What you're not really seeing there is the townhomes are going to be off of Lee Road, meaning that there's going to be a 40-foot buffer between Lee Road and the development. The intent is to not take out the vegetation. So the vegetation is going to create not only an actual physical barrier of 40 feet, but it also create a visual barrier to the actual subdivision. So the intent is there's not going to be access directly into the subdivision off of Lee Road. It's currently planned. Access will be via the curb cuts on Rice Meadow Way. A little bit about the history in terms of the planning. So what John said, who's the current owner, he's been trying to market the property for a long time. He hasn't had much luck. He approached my clients because he's seen the other townhome plans that my clients have built and said, do you think this is something that you can do for me? Because, this is, at this point, the best use for my property. So they developed a plan, went to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission approved the plans 9-0. And then the PDSD also recommended the approval for the plan. So that's how we are now here at the zoning meeting. In addition to the approval by the planning, it also meets the county master plan for this area, which is a project site of mixed residential and commercial uses and densities. In fact, if you are one of the neighbors, you are well aware that there are apartment complexes, subdivisions, and commercial all within a mile, only probably even half a mile of each other. The other thing that my client wanted to let it be known, new construction in an area usually, probably almost always, increases the character of the neighborhood. When you get new construction in, you get new traffic, you get more interest in the property. And that's one of the goals. This is not going to be a detriment to any of the neighbors. We're trying to keep this quick for everybody because we know everybody's time is valuable. But in closing, we believe our proposed plan will be a great benefit to the surrounding neighborhoods. The project will enhance the character of the neighborhood, and it will prevent commercial development, which could result in unforeseen commercial neighbors. Like John said, he tried to put in office buildings, but you don't really know what can come in regarding a commercial. But at least if you know if it's reclassified, you know you're getting townhomes that are going to be a benefit to the area. And then considering the Planning Commission approval of 9-0 and the PDSD recommendations, we hope that this meeting will alleviate a lot of your stress about the project, and it'll lead to a zoning approval at the next meeting. Waiter Kim, do you have anything to add?
Oh, that's good. Good.
No? We were allocated 20 minutes, but like I said, we're conscious of people's time. So, if you have your questions, please use the avenues that were provided, so we can be happy to have a little bit of back and forth and hopefully alleviate your problems and your concerns.
Thank you, Okay. Well, there we go. Okay. Well, at this time, we will, field questions. So whether it's by telephone or by email, Facebook, and/or Twitter as well. If you have your questions, you can you can email them to rctownhall@richlandcountysc.gov. You can go to Facebook and Twitter at Richland County SC, or you can call in. That number is 803-766-5678. So at this time, we will take questions. Madam Clerk, any questions coming in from the audience?
We've received one email. It has several questions in it. Let me see if I can read it. Hang on one second. It is from James Bender. It says, I would like to address the commission on the rezoning property on Rice Meadow Way. I have been living in the Rice Creek Farm community for 14 years. When I moved here, the developers had left the community with a lot of issues. Not enough lighting on the street, sprinkler systems for the vegetation on the main road didn't work, never turned the Rice Creek Farm Road over to Richland County. Now we are having problems with turning Rice Creek Farm Road over to Richland County in order to get things fixed in our community. I have been fighting them for the last 6 years on this matter. What I would like to address about the development of the luxury townhomes, there will be too much traffic in the area as it is already. There isn't enough lighting on Rice Meadow Way, people speeding already through the streets to get to Lee Road. I'm not saying or being biased towards people, but when the families move in here, there are no parks in the area. The children and young adults have nowhere to go, and they are going to overflow back into the private home in the area. There will be theft to our homes, people hanging around our homes when they have no reason to be back there. How are you going to tell them not to hang out in our neighborhoods without having confrontations with them? For the developer, what are you going to do for the community to make it better than just pulling up your townhomes coming into the area? Will you provide speed bumps, more lights to keep the area safe, recreation area on new property for kids to keep them out of the oncoming traffic, but also from the spillover into our private homes? To Richland County, what will you do to make our community better, being that there is more revenue going to the county? There are going to be lots of things to be done, being there are more families moving into our community, more police presence, fixing the road, coming into the development to hold the weight of the cars and trucks in the area. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Only. Mr. McGuinn or Mr. Rupert or whoever you want to take the question with respect to the portion that addresses the developer, and I'll answer the question as it pertains to the county, that portion of it.
actual question to my clients, but regarding crime and everything else, I think that's more of a a Richland County Sheriff's Department question. And Sheriff Lott has recently received some pretty prestigious awards, so I think he's probably going to be doing a pretty good job with doing it. Regarding keeping the people on their property, the townhomes, unlike maybe your complaints, which on this point I'm making next to the apartment complex, townhomes actually have yards, so the children can play in the yards. But I don't. Regarding traffic is traffic's bad everywhere. I don't think whether or not this place gets developed as a commercial use or whether it gets developed as residential use, there's going to be traffic in the Northeast. There's going to be traffic in downtown Columbia. There's going to be traffic in Lexington. And there's just the Midlands is growing. On this way, do you have anything else that you need to say?
Luxury townhomes typically don't draw families, so they draw empty nesters or young couples starting out. It typically is a commuter type client, somebody that is coming back and forth to work, and they like the proximity of being closer in town than going further out to a subdivision. I think you could go look at other communities like this, and you'll find a lot of more late model cars, and rarely see a child in a place like this, although we don't have any way of saying who may or may not buy in the community. But typically, I think as Matt had said earlier, it increases the overall character of the neighborhood. It typically increases the overall value of the neighborhood, and that's probably pretty much it.
Thank you, Mr. McGuinn and Mr. Rupert. And I'll just, respond as to the portion of the question as to what is the county going to do to improve the quality of life and improve the community, considering that there would be more revenue coming in if this project were approved. That was a question that came up quite a bit when I was on the campaign trail less than a year ago. The question was always, well, what are you going to do, Mr. Walker, to improve the quality of life, excuse me, here in Richland County, especially in Northeast Columbia. And the issue that always two issues that came up frequently. One was public safety, and the other was traffic congestion. As has been alluded to earlier, the Northeast has been growing for quite some time, and I know what Mr. Rupert made his comment that that Mr. McGuinn has never had to engage the community when it came to getting a zoning request approved. One of the things that I would say is that he's been doing it for 35 years and he's been very successful at it. But Northeast Columbia is not what it was 35 years ago, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago. There's just been a lot of growth, and so. One of the things that I've said to constituents time and time again was about improvements to infrastructure. That one of the things that we can do, and one of the things actually that we are doing to improve the quality of life in District 8 and throughout the county is expanding or enhancing rather our infrastructure or our roads or what have you. That was one of the main reasons behind the penny when it passed in 2012, and in fact. The largest penny project to date is taking place in District 8, right off of Hardscrabble Road, which is not that far away from, this parcel. And it's my understanding that DOT, who has taken over the project, that the timeline is sometime in 2022. And so 2022 would be here before you know it, but Hardscrabble Road will expand from 2 lanes to 5. So, I mean, that whether this project is approved or not, certainly the expansion of Hardscrabble Road is going to lead to an increase enhancement rather, the quality of life in District 8, and specifically in this area. As to the piece, about crime, certainly there's nothing that the developer, can do about that. But if there is an issue with crime or people loitering, or there's a fear that this could, lead to an uptick in crime in the area, well, certainly I would say that's something I need to know about as your councilman. Certainly, I have direct access to the sheriff, and so if we have concerns about public safety, please relay that information to me. I've got a county cell. I have a county email. Please get that information to me, and I can rest assured that I would be on the phone with Sheriff Lott immediately, regarding any concerns about public safety in this area. So I hope that answers the question. Ms. Only, we can go to the next one.
Has there been an environmental impact assessment done?
I think I can address that. The property, because it was already zoned commercial, had already been cleared and padded. And so there's no reason to believe there's any environmental concerns here. Matter of fact, we border the retention for the shopping center above it right there. And so I think those issues are all resolved. At least they are to our knowledge.
Question.
This is another question about the traffic flow. It says, what would they do to control the traffic flow? Because there's already an existing traffic problem flow when people turn off of Rice Meadow Road onto Rice Creek Farms Road.
I may address that question. I think that may be more appropriate for me as a councilman rather than the developer. If I can kind of just go back to what I said, earlier, as far as about, the expansion of Hardscrabble Road and what that would do for traffic in the area. But the other piece to this is I understand from my conversations with Mr. Price, and Mr. Price, at some point, feel free to jump in. But the concern about traffic, whether you have this, you have this parcel, if this, request is approved or not, the issues with traffic don't stem from developments or the residences inside the area, but a lot of it is coming from areas nearby. People driving up and down Lee Road, or people traveling up and down Hardscrabble Road. That's my understanding. And so whether this request was approved or if it wasn't approved, this decision would do nothing to assuage or allay any of the issues with traffic in that area, simply because, again, a lot of the congestion is coming from people who are traveling away, from this parcel and not even turning into the subdivision or into the area where this parcel is located. But Mr. Price, feel free to jump in if I am, if I'm off on that.
So, no, sir, you're correct. I think you can see that a lot of the traffic along this area is really people traveling back and forth along Lee Road and Hardscrabble Road, not necessarily internal to this development.
Anything you all wanted to add, Mr. McGuinn or Mr. Rupert, to what's been said?
I think it's an equal concern to us when we're doing a site selection, and the fact that this had three really significant ways to get in and out of it was one of the reasons we chose it, because there is traffic everywhere, but this still has three, clearly decent entrances and exits from this area. So it's probably as good as it's going to get. And I think if the owner, if it would have developed commercially, compared to the number of townhouses, you would have, from a traffic, standpoint, you would have had a lot more traffic, coming and going probably there than the other way. So I agree.
Question, Ms. Only?
Has there been any studies as to what would happen if we have another 100-year flood? Would flooding be considered with the new construction?
Mr. Price, would you care to address that, at least from the county's perspective?
Yes, as part of the, as part of their development of the site, they're required to turn in site plans, and those site plans include engineering plans to ensure that no additional runoff from the site will occur than what currently happens. As far as looking at another 100-year flood, of course, that's I guess a kind of an anomaly, when this doesn't happen a lot, whether it be a 100-year flood or a 1,000-year flood. And so those are a little more difficult to prepare for, but, again, those are the things that our engineering review will look at to ensure that flooding issues are addressed, to ensure that there's no impact on other properties, and to ensure, again, that no more runoff occurs from this site than currently does now.
Mr. McGuinn, you or your team also care to address that question or anything you have to add to it?
No, that was a good representation, and I think that the toughest part for developers is that the flow off the property before it's developed and the flow off the property after it's developed can't exceed. And so it's a tough requirement for us to meet, one of the toughest development requirements, but that does ensure the neighbors that we're not adding to the issue.
Question, Ms. Only.
All right. Will the county consider adding lighting to Rice Creek Farms Road?
Mr. Bryce, is that something you want to address? Sure.
Unfortunately, at this time, because Rice Creek Farms Road is a private road and is not under the jurisdiction or ownership of the county, public funds can be expended on private property. I believe it was stated earlier that the county hasn't taken these roads over, and you're correct, but there's something are working towards, working with the different developers along Rice Creek Farms, and also working with some of the other property owners. This is a little interesting to say, but property owners of the road, to try to see if we can get those roads brought up to county standards. Thus, we can acquire those, and then we can make the other improvements that are necessary and desired by the people in the community.
Question, Ms. Only.
There ain't any other questions.
No other questions? Okay, any calls or?
This is streaming on YouTube. I believe, just ask this question. Althea Counts asks, please clarify the paths of egress out of the proposed subdivisions.
Gwen or Mr. Rupert, would you care to address that question?
I can take that one. You can barely see it, but if you look at the northern part of the proposed subdivision, which is labeled K on the map, you'll see little curb cuts, they're almost kind of like parentheses. As currently proposed, all access in and out will be via Rice Meadow Way. Be 1, 2, 3, 4 entrances leading out of the proposed project onto Rice Meadow Way.
Thank you, Mr. Rupert. I believe, Mr. Price, you said questions are coming through from YouTube. That was the only question from YouTube. Okay. Well, so we are terminate the town hall early. Certainly, we have blocked out an hour for this event so we could, hear from Mr. McGuinn and his team could hear from the community and, but also give them a chance to, explain this project. But if we don't have any more questions, I think at this point we can wrap up, this town hall. And so
Mr.
I want
Walker,
to
I don't mean to interrupt.
Sure.
We understand that the project is important for everybody. We are more than happy to sit tight and wait for some more questions if they do want to roll in. But whether or not we adjourn is obviously up to you.
Well, I'm certainly not opposed to that. Sure, we can do that. Again, everyone that's out there, if you're listening, if you have questions, concerns, whether in support of this request or opposed to the request, you can call in at 803-766-5678. Again, 766-5678. You can email your questions at rctownhall@richlandcountysc.gov, or you can go to Facebook and Twitter at Richland SC. But we're willing to, sit tight for a few more minutes and, give the community an opportunity to, email, call in, or go to social media, with your thoughts.
We got one. Mr. Price, the property is privately owned, but the Treasury owns half of that road. With the state owning half of the road, why can they not put lighting on that road?
I believe that they're referring to a portion of the property is under the forfeited land commission, at this time, on this. It was, those properties went before, right now, they're kind of in limbo, and I'll try to answer this the best I can. I believe it might be better answered by, Adams, is our treasurer. Thank you very much. A lot of the properties they will go for, they'll be put on the tax roll, and sometimes they'll go up for sale during the tax sales. But if they are not, somebody tries to actually claim those properties, that they will often go to the forfeited land commission. One of the things that we've been looking at as a county also is not to have up for tax sales. That does affect the residents along those roads, and their ability to get in and out. Also, again, that shouldn't be something that's privately owned. This should be something hopefully that will be deemed sent to the county. Excuse me, but right now we can't do anything because it's kind of in limbo because it's not necessarily county owned, and so while it might be a part of the forfeited land commission, it's still not a county owned property. Thus, we can't.
If I may just, sort of add to that, I think this is sort of, continue along the same lines, same line of thought as Mr. Price. Oftentimes, I hear from the community, complaints about our roads or certain properties, and thinking that the county should do something. But oftentimes, what I find out is that a road that may be problematic or that may be an eyesore, usually it's not owned by the county. It's owned by some other governmental entity. But it's very difficult, when you travel the county, to discern which road is a county road, which road is a DOT road, which road is a private road. And I know in my 3 months on council, I've certainly received numerous emails or phone calls from constituents, whether it pertains to litter, whether it pertains to a pothole in a road, or sometimes maybe there's an issue with a sewage drain, and you find out that either it's DOT owned or it's owned by what's on private property. So just sort of keep that in mind, that as you travel and navigate the county, and if you see issues with the road, certainly feel free to call me or email me or what have you. But also know that if nothing's done with it, or if the county doesn't act on it in terms of making repairs or trying to ameliorate the problem, it's not because the county's not interested, but oftentimes it's the county doesn't own it. But at a minimum, what we would do is relay that concern or that issue to the appropriate entity, whether it be DOT or what have you. So just keep that in mind. Next one, Ms. Only. Not anymore, okay.
Councilman Walker, just as a reminder, I believe this case will be brought before County Council on the 27th of this month, so it'll be the 27th of April at 7 p.m. And I believe that meeting will be streamed because we're still not meeting in person. Richland County staff will still receive comments for all of the cases that will be going before County Council. And if you would submit those, we ask that you get those into us by 12 on the 6th of April. And what we do is we compile those comments and we get them to the council members in advance so that they will also hear those. But if you have any questions or if you want to submit comments, you can submit those to Planning Commission at richlandcountysc.gov. And that's Planning Commission at richlandcountysc.gov. Or you can also use that same email address to ask questions of staff. Maybe something comes to you later on, but we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have about not only this case or just really any type of development that's going on in the county or any that you see.
Thank you, Mr. Price. And just allow me to say this in closing. I want to thank Mr. McGuinn and his team for being willing to participate in this town hall. I know, Mr. McGuinn, again, you've been a successful builder in this area for 30-plus years, and I know that this is the first time you've actually had to, engage in, one of the, an event like this when it comes to getting a development or a zoning request approved. But I want you to know that this is not about the community against the developer or the developer against the community. It's like I said to you in our private conversation, it's just that so much has changed in Northeast Columbia, since, you started out building. And I guess, that's a good thing. There's growth. That means that the Northeast is an area where people, they want to live. That's where they want to raise their families. They want to send their kids to school in that area. And for developers, you see this, you want to aid in that. That people want to live in that area. So that's why you're seeking to, have homes, built in that area as well. And so for me, this was just very important to try to bring the community and the developer together to have a discussion about what this project was all about, but also for the developer to hear just the concerns from the community, at least what I've been hearing over the past year as I was out, campaigning. And so we don't, I can tell you that my constituents, they're not anti-growth. They don't want to stop growth. It's just that they've taken a keen interest in new developments as a result of so much growth that has happened in Northeast Columbia over the last, 5 to 10 years or so. But again, thank you for being able to participate in this, Mr. Price. Thank you as well for lending your time and your knowledge to this event tonight. And also, I want to thank our clerk, our interim clerk, Miss Michelle Onley, for organizing all of this and dealing with she was inundated with emails from me, from Mr. Price, from Mr. McGuinn, but certainly I thank you and Mr. Brown, our county administrator. He's present for this town hall tonight. Thank you for the hard work that that you put in day to day. Always responsive. And not just you, but your staff as well. And before we adjourn, I believe Mr. Price had one additional thing he wanted to add or say.
You just want to make sure all of the comments that have been submitted are presented. This is more of a comment versus a question. But Althea account states, I think the bright spot in this proposal is possibly that the property will no longer be used as a place for people to dispose of things they no longer want. Litter is a problem in Northeast Richland.
Thank you for that, Price. Okay. Well,
Mr. Councilman, thank you. Mr. Price, thank you. Miss Only, patience of a saint, thank you. My folks, and frankly, we don't want it to end here. We're sorry we didn't get on this sooner. And so we still have time for dialogue. I'm one of the only local developers left. Everybody's sold to big publicly held companies, and my cell phone number, which is 803-513-0114, is widely accessible to people, and they're free to call me. If I'm awake, I answer it. I just don't stay awake as much as I used to. But we don't mind continuing the dialogue either. We want to make sure that we come in there friendly and And if we're able to do the project, that we can leave friendly. And we appreciate the olive branch that you extended in allowing us to backtrack and get this done.
More than welcome, Mr. McGuinn, and I can assure you that my constituents are, they appreciate that sentiment. That's it. We are adjourned. Thank you.